Shalom and welcome everyone to the deep dive. Today we're really getting into a major chapter from the Torah, Genesis 21. It's one of those passages that just beautifully weaves together Yahweh's promises being fulfilled, sometimes miraculously, with the often messy human side of things. Really looking forward to unpacking this.
Shalom. Me too. It's great to be digging into this together. I think our goal today is really to pull out the core insights from Genesis 21, right? To see how Yahweh's faithfulness just shines through, even amidst the joy, the conflict, and the reconciliation we see. And of course, connecting it all back to our lives as followers of Yeshua, seeing the whole story unfold.
So when you went back through Genesis 21, what was the first thing that kind of grabbed you? For me, it was that sudden shift, the huge joy of Isaac's birth, and then boom, almost the next breath, the really heartbreaking story of Hagar and Ishmael being sent away.
Yeah, that juxtaposition is incredibly powerful, isn't it? It really stands out. What struck me initially was just Yahweh's sheer fidelity, his unwavering commitment. He always follows through on his word, even when our human choices make things incredibly complicated. It really underscores that his plan moves forward sovereignly, often, right through the middle of our messes.
Okay, let's dive into that. That idea of divine faithfulness, chapter 21, verse 1, starts so strong. Yahweh attended to Sarah as he had said, and Yahweh did for Sarah what he had promised.
Aww.
That feels like more than just reporting an event. It's a statement about Yahweh's very character.
Oh, absolutely. It's foundational. That verse sets the theological state for everything that happens next. It points directly back to those promises Elohim made way back in Genesis 17 and 18. It's like a divine signature reminding us of his absolute reliability. Isaac's birth, to parents so old, it's clearly not just biology at work. It's a sovereign act. It shows his power over creation itself and hammers home that his covenant depends entirely on his character, his faithfulness, not on human ability or, frankly, perfect behavior.
Right, and that leads straight into the name Isaac Yitzchak, meaning he laughs. Genesis 21:6, Sarah said, Elohim has made me laugh. Everyone who hears will laugh with me. That's just so incredibly deep when you put it next to her laughing in disbelief back in chapter 18. Her private doubt becomes this public declaration of joy.
It's a fascinating transformation of that word sachak, isn't it? The root of Yitzchak. It pops up ambiguously before, but here it completely reframes everything. Sarah's skepticism turns into this communal celebration of Yahweh's power. It's a living testimony, really, to how he can turn our deepest doubts into joyful praise. And this birth, Abraham and Sarah were as good as dead, biologically speaking. It's such a clear picture, a type of Yeshua's virgin birth later on, both showing Yahweh bringing life out of impossible situations.
But like we said, that J gets complicated fast. The story just pivots sharply to Hagar and Ishmael's expulsion. And it hinges on Sarah seeing Ishmael doing something described by that exact same Hebrew word, satchak, in verse 9. How do we square that?
That ambiguity is crucial, I think. Whether Ishmael was just playing, maybe a bit rough, or actually mocking Isaac, Sarah perceives it as a threat. Her reaction, likely driven by fear for Isaac's inheritance, maybe some jealousy too, leads her to demand they leave. It brings that conflict to a head, what Paul later calls the tension between the son of the flesh, born from human plans, and the son of the promise, born by divine intervention. It's painful, undeniably painful, but Yahweh actually sanctions the separation. Why? To protect the specific covenant line through Isaac, to prevent future strife over that birthright. It was, in a way, a necessary pruning for the promise to continue as planned.
You can feel Abraham's pain, though. Genesis says he was deeply distressed. This is his son. But Yahweh steps in directly, verses 12 and 13, with a very specific instruction. What's Yahweh revealing there?
That moment is so clarifying for the Abrahamic covenant, isn't it? Yahweh tells Abraham, listen to Sarah. He states clearly, through Isaac shall your offspring be named. That firmly establishes the chosen line. But then, almost in the same breath, you see Yahweh's incredible compassion. He repeats his promise to Hagar from Genesis 16, assuring Abraham he'll make Ishmael a great nation too, because he is Abraham's son. It draws such a sharp line. There's a special covenant focus through Isaac, but also Yahweh's broader care and provision for others, even those seemingly outside that specific promise. He doesn't just abandon Ishmael.
And then that scene in the wilderness, Hagar and Ishmael, basically at death's door. Verse 19 hits hard. Then Elohim opened her eyes and she saw a well of water. It was right there. She just couldn't see it.
Such a powerful metaphor for spiritual sight, right? In her absolute despair, she was blind to the provision literally beside her. Yahweh's intervention wasn't creating something new. It was enabling her to perceive what was already present. It connects right back to Genesis 16, where Hagar names Yahweh El Roi, the God who sees me. He saw her then, he sees her now. He sees the suffering of the marginalized, the desperate, and he provides. And that act, revealing life-saving water in a place of death, it just resonates so strongly with Yeshua's offer of living water in John 4, doesn't it? The water that quenches eternal thirst.
Okay, so after all that intense family drama, all the divine intervention, the chapter takes another turn. It ends with something very different. Abraham making a peace treaty with Abimelech. How does that fit in? Seems almost tacked on.
It does feel like a shift, but I think it's a crucial thematic counterpoint. Verses 22 to 34 move from internal family conflict to external, almost political reconciliation. And notice why Abimelech comes to Abraham. He says, Elohim is with you in all that you do. Abraham's relationship with Yahweh is evident to outsiders. The dispute itself is over a well. Water rights were everything for survival. They resolve it formally, with a covenant, a beret, sealed by an oath. It shows Abraham acting not just as patriarch, but as a figure of peace and integrity in the wider world. His faith has public consequences.
And the place gets named Beersheba. What's wrapped up in that name?
Beersheba, Gesheba, it literally means well of the oath, recalling their agreement, or maybe well of seven, referencing the 7 lambs Abraham gave as a witness. Both meanings tie into the covenant they made. And that number 7, of course, throughout Scripture points to divine completeness, perfection. So this earthly treaty, this covenant of peace with a Gentile king, it subtly points forward, I think, to the ultimate eternal peace Yeshua brings. Peace between Yahweh and humanity, and also breaking down the wall between Jew and Gentile, like Paul talks about in Ephesians 2. It even echoes Melchizedek back in Genesis 14, that mysterious king of righteousness and peace, himself a type of Yeshua. It's just undeniable then. Genesis 21 isn't just a historical account. It's saturated with messianic significance. When you look at all these threads, what are the most compelling ways Genesis 21 points us straight to Yeshua?
Oh, they're woven all through it. The events, the people, the themes, they act like signposts pointing ahead. We've talked about Isaac as a type. That miraculous birth, right? Sarah, old and barren. Mary, a virgin. Both births scream Yahweh's power to do the humanly impossible.
And the names themselves. Isaac, he laughs, signifying joy fulfilled. And Yeshua, his name means salvation. He's the source of ultimate joy, the fulfillment of everything Yahweh promised.
Exactly. And then there's that submission, that foreshadowing of sacrifice. Isaac carries the wood, submits to his father, pointing directly to the Ekta in chapter 22. It's such a parallel to Yeshua submitting to the Father, carrying his own cross. And the substitution. The ram caught in the thicket for Isaac. Yeshua, the ultimate lamb of Elohim, as John the Baptist calls him, our perfect substitute. Then Abraham received Isaac back as if from the dead, believing Yahweh could raise him. Yeshua was literally raised, conquering death itself. It's layer upon layer.
Which connects right into Isaac being the son of promise and the whole idea of the promised seed of Abraham. Paul really picks up on this in Galatians, doesn't he? He makes a huge theological argument out of Genesis 21.
He absolutely does. It's central to his argument in Galatians 3. He stresses that the promises were made to Abraham and his singular seed, capital S, and identifies that seed as Christ, as Yeshua. It's fundamental. The ultimate fulfillment isn't just about numerous descendants, but about one specific descendant, the Messiah. And then in Galatians 4, he uses Hagar and Sarah allegorically. Hagar represents Sinai, the law, human effort leading to bondage. Sarah represents the promise, grace, freedom through faith. Ishmael's expulsion becomes a picture. Those trying to achieve righteousness by works, by fleshly effort, are excluded. But the children of the promise, those who trust in Yeshua, inherit through divine grace. It's not anti-Torah, not at all. It's anti-works righteousness. Salvation is a gift. Romans 9 confirms this. True children of Abraham are defined by faith, not just lineage.
And that other thread we saw, El Roy, the God who sees that, finds its fullest expression in Yeshua too.
Yes, completely. Yahweh heard Ishmael's cry. Think about Yeshua's ministry constantly reaching out to the suffering, the outcast, those society overlooked. Hagar's eyes being opened to the well. It's like a picture of spiritual blindness being healed. Yeshua is the one who opens our eyes to see the truth, to see the provision of Yahweh, offering that living water, that spiritual life that satisfies our deepest eternal thirst.
You know, to really feel the weight of these events, thinking about the world Abraham lived in helps so much. What kind of ancient Near Eastern customs or context really light up this chapter?
Definitely. Understanding the context is key. First, that practice of surrogacy. It was a recognized, even legal custom for a barren wife to give her maidservant to her husband. The child born was legally the wife's heir. Knowing that helps explain the dynamic between Sarah and Hagar, and also the tragic irony of them trying to help Yahweh's promise along through this accepted cultural method, only to create incredible strife.
Right, it wasn't just out of the blue. It was within their cultural framework, however flawed their application of it was regarding Yahweh's promise.
Precisely. Then second, think about pastoral life and diplomacy. For nomads, water wasn't just important, it was life. Disputes over wells, like with Abimelech, were serious business. Resolving them with treaties, oaths, symbolic gestures like the 7 lambs at Beersheba, that was standard practice for establishing peace and confirming agreements in that world. And third, the literary context within Genesis itself. We see these wife-sister stories pop up, chapter 12, chapter 20, later in 26 with Isaac. They often show the patriarchs messing up, driven by fear, resorting to deception. But every time Yahweh steps in to protect the promise, protect the lineage, it highlights his faithfulness despite their failures.
And those specific Hebrew words we mentioned, they just add so much depth. Can we quickly recap those key terms?
Yeah, definitely worth highlighting them again. First, El Roi, the God who sees me. That's Hagar's personal name for Yahweh back in Genesis 16. It emphasizes his intimate awareness of individual suffering, and it echoes so powerfully when he hears Ishmael here, he sees. Second, Yitzchak, Isaac, he laughs, and the root word sachak. We saw his journey from Sarah's disbelief to her overwhelming joy, and maybe even to Ishmael's mockery. It's a word loaded with meaning in this story. And third, Berit, covenant, that binding agreement. It's the foundation of the Beersheba incident, the well of the oath, connected to the number 7, symbolizing that divine completion and perfection we see running through the Torah, finding its ultimate reality in the new covenant through Yeshua.
Okay, so bringing it all home, after this deep dive, Genesis 21. What does it really mean for us, for you and me, living as followers of Yeshua today? What's the practical takeaway?
Well, it makes me wonder, doesn't it? How often do we act like Sarah and Abraham, trying to engineer Yahweh's promises ourselves, using our own efforts, our own flesh, only to make things messier? I think Genesis 21 is such a strong call to trust his timing, his methods, even when it's hard, even when waiting feels like forever.
Yeah, that really hits home. And also, Yahweh's compassion for Hagar and Ishmael. They weren't the direct line of promise through Isaac, but he saw them, he heard them, he provided. That feels like a real challenge to us, doesn't it? To reflect that same compassion to everyone, even people we might see as outside our group, echoing Yeshua's own heart for absolutely everyone.
Exactly. And that image of Yahweh opening Hagar's eyes to the well, wow. It prompts me to pray, Yahweh, open my eyes. Help me see your provision when I'm in my own wilderness moments, when I feel alone or desperate. Because he is El Roi. He sees us. We're never truly abandoned, even when we feel like we are. He's always there. His provision might be right beside us.
And ultimately, it all circles back to Yeshua, the true seed of promise. Our inheritance, our real laughter, our spiritual life. None of it comes from our own striving, our attempts to be good enough. It's all through him. We're children of the promise by grace, through faith in him, learning to walk in his ways, his Torah.
Amen. And that peace treaty at Beersheba, it's a reminder that following Yeshua means being agents of reconciliation. We're called to seek peace, even with those who are different, reflecting the ultimate peace Yeshua brings. It's a foreshadowing of that final messianic kingdom peace, but also a call to live out that peace right here, right now, in our messy world.
What a rich chapter. Genesis 21 takes us from miraculous laughter through painful separation to compassionate provision and even political peace. And all of it points to Yahweh's incredible faithfulness and the promise wrapped up in Yeshua.
It really does. This deep dive shows how Yahweh's sovereign plan unfolds, weaving through our human strengths and weaknesses, always moving towards fulfilling his promises, culminating in his Messiah. It's just a powerful picture of his relentless grace and purpose.
Well, we really hope this discussion has given you some fresh insights and maybe deepened your appreciation for Yahweh's word and how it all points to Yeshua. Please join us next time as we continue our journey chapter by chapter.
As we wrap up today's study, let's pause and reflect on what we've learned and receive the blessings of Yahweh.